All right, we're going to get rolling here in Buffalo this week. Good to be back in the division. Um, it's defensively, been a really impressive group. Don't give them many yards, turn the ball over. Really good up front, make a lot of negative plays, sack the quarterback, tackles for loss. Turnovers, really good in their kickoff coverage, punt coverage units. They do a really good job on that. Um, so, those mostly defensive players. Then offensively, some explosive players, running backs, tight ends, receivers. So, Anderson, obviously a really experienced guy that both Brian and Sean have a lot of experience with. So, sure he'll be able to handle things the way they want it done. And we know it'll be tough up there Monday night. It's always tough in Buffalo, and sure there'll be a lot of energy in the stadium, given all that they have going on and so forth. And so it'll be a good test for us on the road to go and play well in the division.
Have you seen Brian put his imprint on that offense?
Sure, yeah.
What are some of the things that he's done that he's put him that he's been able to bring forward?
Yeah, I mean, he's been a coordinator multiple times before. I think this is similar, but obviously adapted for the personnel and the situation that they have. Good balance between the running game and the passing game, play action. Do a good job of spreading the ball around, getting it out on time.
Do you have much experience facing Derek Anderson?
Not too much.
How do you compare with a situation like this?
Yeah, well, he played last week. I mean, he's been in the league. We saw him at Carolina, saw him at Cleveland. I mean, there's plenty of film on him, so. Yeah, but I'm sure there'll be some things that we're not preparing for that they'll do with him that may be different than what they did with Allen.
I think Josh mentioned yesterday Buffalo's defense makes you really earn your way down the field. Is that something you guys
They don't give up. Yeah, they've only given up one big play, one big passing play this season. Again, a lot of sacks, a lot of negative runs. Coach McDermott does a real good job with his defense. They use multiple blitzers, combination zone, blitz zone, man, game, stunts. So you have to block a lot through the course of the game and handle it. And they usually get everybody a few times with something and either turn the ball over or knock the offense out of the drive.
Jermaine Edmonds is somebody for them. I don't think he's come off the field yet defensively. How have they been using him?
Middle linebacker.
Just pretty much in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
Consistent. Will they bring him on pressures or?
They bring everybody. Everybody blitzes. Corners blitz, safeties blitz, linebackers blitz. Everybody blitzes. Everybody gets a turn.
Bill, the Bills lost last week 37-5 to the Colts. You have to just remind your players, go back and look at some of the earlier games because this is also a team that went into
Yeah, they won a couple big games. Though it's a division game. It's always tough with them up there. We know that. So, I mean, we know it's going to be tough. We talked about it, but that's talking about it's the easy part. It'll be dealing with it Monday night. It'll be the hard part. Yeah, big leg. He's does a good job in a +50. Yeah, well, we didn't really have that option. He was claimed.
What is the extra day of preparation? How you stretch it out this week, I guess.
Yeah, we've been in this situation a couple times before this year. Houston, Kansas City, so probably similar to that.
Bill, does Anderson fall in the similar category as some of the other quarterbacks you've faced so far this year in terms of his athleticism? I think earlier in his career he would run quite a bit.
Yeah, well, I'm sure if we don't do a good job of defending it, he'll do it. So.
Does LaShawn McCoy look as explosive as he's been?
Sure does, yeah. He's had a lot of great runs. When the hole's there, that's a problem. But he makes plays when the defense over pursues. He cuts back and very good in the passing game. Good short yardage, goal line runner, gets tough yards. I mean, he can do it all. He's a great player. He's just hard to tackle, hard to stop.
Bill Zero was named one of the practice players of the week this week. What have you seen from him since he's been on the sign off the roster?
Yeah, he's worked hard. Just try to do everything we've asked him to do.
When you're playing against a team that has, a quarterback that they drafted really high, like Josh Allen, is there any part of you that starts to study up on him because you know that he's going to be the future of their franchise, or is it just focused on Anderson?
Well, we've seen him play this year. He's been ruled out for the game. Then we'll focus on the players that aren't ruled out. But of course, we've seen him, so it's impossible to miss him. Watching all the other games.
For the last couple of years, how much is Hyde?
Well, Hyde and Poyer do a good job. They work very well together. It's hard to talk about one without talking about the other one. They do an excellent job disguising their coverages and the blitzes because they do pressure a pretty fair amount. They are both very instinctive and make some plays based on anticipation, experience, recognition of offensive formations or plays as they develop. They react to them pretty quickly. So both those guys do a real good job. But Hyde's, has also stepped in for him as a punt returner. He's got very good ball skills. He has corner experience. So when they're in man-to-man coverage situations and he's asked to do that, he's pretty competitive as a coverage player as well as a zone player, both short and deep. Middle of the field or half of the field because they play both split and post safety coverages. So he's a pretty versatile guy. Poyer, similar, a little more of a strong safety role, but again, they work very well together and they're somewhat interchangeable because the defense is balanced and there's a lot of strong rotation, there's a lot of weak rotation, there's a lot of split safety coverage, there's a lot of strong safety pressure, weak safety pressure, or pressures from that side. So they're pretty interchangeable, and that makes them a well-balanced defense. It's hard to take advantage of one thing or the other because they're both pretty good at both.
What has been impressed you about their pressure?
All the negative plays that are created. So again, they do a good job with movement. They bring guys off the edge and get their alignment involved in stunts and movement. They play base and they're just hard to block. I mean, Phillips has done a good job for him. He's a good young player. Obviously, Kyle's always a problem in there. Murphy's done a good job for him. He's a strong guy. It's hard to block on the edge, as is Hughes. Alexander. So they have good players up there. They play them straight. They stun them, and they stun them in combination with other players, secondary players and linebackers. So that creates some issues for blocking patterns and so forth. But a lot of negative plays, a lot of strips, a lot of balls on the ground, and then that all creates long yardage. And they sack the quarterback. They hit the quarterback. He usually matches up on the number one receiver. So not always, but usually. So depending on where the guy is and who it is and so forth. But clearly they want to get him on a certain player, and then they work opposite that with Gaines or Lewis or whoever the other guy's been. Ben Gaines, but he was hurt, and so then Lewis played some for him. So, and then Johnson really plays the nickel position inside.
You have to get Robert Husky back this week.
Yeah, hope to get everybody back. We'll see.
Any update on Sergeant Shell as well?
Nope.
Take two more.
Bill, when it comes to stopping a mobile quarterback, what are some of the teaching points that you try to emphasize with your team this week as Anderson has some of the issues?
Yeah. Well, we could be here for a while on that one, but I mean, essentially it depends on what the call is, what our responsibility is, how many people are involved, 3, 4, 5, 6-man rush, whatever it is. So there are a lot of varying factors what the protection is, but fundamentally it's the responsibility of the players that are rushing the quarterback to maintain leverage on them, and so we'll keep working on that. Yeah, I saw it, yes. Yes, honored to do it, yes. It's a great, World Series is a great event. That's one that, as a kid, I always, that was before there was no Super Bowl. That's how far back I go. So, that was the World Series. That was the big, championship boxing match. That was really the big event. That was a big event in sports. So, yeah, it's always got a special place, and 2 great franchises, and big win for the Sox last night. They were good. Mm-hmm.
All right, Bill, last one if you don't mind. You guys blocked a kick the other day. It was a result of Joe Judge seeing something, having an idea, putting it in. Well, what's that like as a coach when you want to try something out, you try it for the first time, and it works as well as it does?
Let's say there's some of that every week, based on who you play and how you want to try to play the game. You do things that are either different, or they're a little bit different. Try to do the same thing with a little different look or something like that. So, sometimes those things work out. Sometimes they don't work as well as you hope they will for one reason or another. So, but that's part of the process. And the flip side of it is you prepare for things, and you see some of the things you prepare for, and then you see some things usually that you haven't prepared for, or maybe you prepared for some version of it, but the way they do it's a little bit different, that type of thing. So, there's really not that many plays in practice. It isn't like college. You don't have a full scout team, so you only get, maybe half as many plays in practice as you would get in the game, on a Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, covering early downs, third down and red area. So, the number of plays that the teams, our opponents, have run are way more than what we could possibly run in practice. So matching things up in practice the way they hit it in the game is, it's hard to do, I'd say. So there's an element of kind of every play that you run or that they run there's a few that hit the way they do in practice, but there's quite a few that it's a pattern against a different coverage, or it's a different pattern against a coverage with similar concepts, but maybe they are in a different formation, things like that. So that's just all part of it. Players have to make adjustments in the game, and we have a lot of experienced players, and guys do a good job of that, of seeing something that's sort of what we covered, but it's a little bit different because that's the game plan. You don't see it till Sunday. So, okay. All right. Thank you.